he was breaking his parole, and he went to live at a place called Lutheran Social Services, where he would be allowed to sleep at night. It's a shelter, basically. And so I'd see him walking down the street, and we would invite him in. We would say, come eat with our family. He'd be hungry. He'd be wandering all day, young. I mean, this is like a young guy, regular clothes. And he didn't look like a homeless guy, but he was. And he would come and eat dinner with our family. And we would share the gospel with him and talk to him about changing his life, making good decisions, and trying to convince him that he wasn't a bad man. He just had made bad decisions. And, we had done that multiple times. He would come over looking for me some days, and I wouldn't be there. My wife would be there, and she would make him something to eat and talk to him and send him on his way. Well, last week, this is no lie, a woman came up dead 5 houses from my house. And it was him. He killed her. Shocked me. Floored my wife. A man that we had in our home, nurtured him, talked to him. He was just in a dark place. Evidently had become a drug addict. Sad for us. Sad because we knew this man. And he wasn't that man that the news had wrote up. But I had 2 choices. I could, freak out and get different locks and tell my wife we're not helping people walking by anymore. We're not talking to them. We're not doing that. We're going to be safer. We're going to, Or I could trust that God knew what he was doing, because that could have been my life. Could have been my family. Trust that God had a plan, had a function, and that doing good was the right thing. I could not trust God anymore. I could not trust that he's going to keep me safe and buy an arsenal of weapons and, get different locks and get security systems, and I could do that. It's the right thing. Did God know what he was doing? Sure he did. Was God in control the whole time? Sure he was. Satan has a habit of doing these things called planting seeds of fear, uncertainty, and doubt in your mind. What our congregation likes to call the FUD. FUD motion. Fears, uncertainties, and doubts. And Satan plants these things in your mind in hope that you won't act on what is right because of those 3 things. Think about that. If I'm fearful, or I'm uncertain that God is in charge, or I have doubts about who I am spiritually, or if I'm really doing what's right as a Christian, if God favors me, if I have these fears, uncertainties, and doubts, and they develop inside my mind and heart, they keep me from doing things that were right. And so Satan plants this huge seed in our lives, wondering whether we'll really trust God or not. Isn't it typical for us to worry about things that we can't control? It's so typical. I try to tell my wife, you worry too much about things that don't matter. I'm sure that I do it too. I'm not gating myself. But, any of you guys know this? Your wife's in the passenger seat. She's sitting there acting like there's a brake on her side. Oh, watch out! No, you don't. Slow down. It's like as if she's going to control something in the car and you got the wheel on the pedals. I mean, really, right? Why does she do that? Because she don't trust you. She isn't in control, and she knows it. That's what it is. Think about roller coasters. Right? We're right here by Cedar Point. You guys know coasters. You guys, that's your thing. Right? So, okay, you strap yourself into some machine contraption somebody just built, and you got some 17-year-old working the controls with a week's training, and he was wearing the goofy outfit last week. Now he's controlling the ride that you're in, and somehow you trusted your life with this guy. People who are afraid of roller coasters think about it flying off the track. They think about it stopping at the top. I know. I'm not fearful of coasters, but they think about that. Why is that? It's because it's a moment in which they realize they're not in control. They're at someone else's disposal. And it's true with anything. Airplanes, anything that gives you a moment in which you realize you're not in control, you're fearful of. You fear that. But, let me just say this. Are you realizing that control is an illusion? You're never in control. You never were. You just think you are. You think because you have the wheel and the pedals that you're going to control the semi-truck driver that's a mile away headed in your direction? No, it's an illusion. God is always in control. And until you understand that, you'll continue to worry and doubt and have fear and be possessed by those things that hinder your growth spiritually. When you can let go of fear and uncertainty and doubt and push those things from your mind and know that He is God, the same God of Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Gideon, and Daniel, you'll grow. You know, it's important that you understand that. Brothers, we are not in the hands of faith. We are in the hands of God. Romans chapter 8 says that nothing can separate us from Christ, whether tribulation, distress, nakedness, peril, or sword. Nothing can separate you from Him. Those things that were listed are things that have physical nature. Tribulation, peril, sword. Those things can't take you from Him. It's at His disposal. You know, in all circumstances. I'm not asking you to be out of control. I'm just asking you to relinquish control. Or the thought that you're in control. Give it, finally, just give it up. It's burdensome to be afraid. It's burdensome to fear all the time, fear things all the time. To worry, to doubt, to have uncertainty. That is such a burdensome life. But when you can really be free, that is a good life. You know, in our text, back in 1 Peter chapter 4, that first section is about suffering. And we talk some in class about suffering as we're here. You know, suffering's a fickle thing. We talked about, you know, we act as if, I think almost all of us act as if we shouldn't have to suffer. Well, I'm coming to church. I'm here. I'm doing lessons. I volunteer. I see the sick. I visit my brothers who are sick. I take them food. Why should I have to suffer? Right? It's like it's stuck. This thought stuck in our brain. And the very reason we have to suffer, or we should be suffering, is found in verse 1 of 1 Peter 4. It says, "Therefore, since Christ has suffered in the flesh, arm yourselves with the same purpose. Because he who has suffered in the flesh has ceased from sin." Ceased, stopped, is not sinning. So, in the event of suffering, it's probably because you're doing something right. You got some things together. And Satan is not wanting that. Now, you got to reverse the role. If you're not suffering, that means you're sinning. If you're not suffering, that means you probably don't have any issues as far as say he's got you right where he wants you. Does that make sense? I mean, if life is good, there is no suffering. You know, you're continuing on your way. I'll change anything. Satan's got you convinced. So, challenge yourself. Ask yourself, why haven't I suffered? Am I not evangelizing? Am I not studying? Am I not knowing His Word? Does Satan know who I am? You remember those events in the Scripture? Oh, I know this guy. Now, I know that guy, but you, I don't know. Challenge yourself. Confidence. Confidence not in yourself, but in Him. Confidence that you know He is there. Go to Hebrews chapter 10 with me. Hebrews chapter 10. I want to read previous section of verses.